Hello. Can everyone hear me all right? Wonderful. Good morning. I'm very excited to be here today. My body is convinced it's still 3 a.m. in Los Angeles, so if I yawn, excuse me. It's been a long couple of weeks. So as I said, my name's Gabe. I'm the CEO of what is now called Huffington Post Riot. We were acquired a couple weeks ago by Huffington Post and AOL, which I'll talk about a little bit. But I wanted to start first by talking about a story that kind of spurred me to keep doing the work that we're doing, and it explains a little bit about what Riot does and why we do what we do. So I graduated college, which is now quite a while ago, and had no idea what I was doing. I had about 10 different jobs. I think I was a moving man, a ranch hand, I cooked Mexican food, I was like a bad poet. I did a lot of things that were not very interesting, and none of them really stuck. And 2007 came across in the United States, and an old professor from college decided to run for president, which was Barack Obama. And I was like, oh, I should try my hand at this. This sounds kind of interesting. So I hopped on the Obama campaign, no idea what I was doing, and kind of, as my mom joked at the time, it was kind of like joining the circus, where you just kind of show up and do all these different things. And it was an interesting experience. It was fun, and it didn't really get to me until a certain point where I was in Texas. I was in eastern Texas, in this town called Tyler, Texas. And we were having the primaries and caucuses there. And a long story short, this woman came in who had never voted before, never participated in an election. And she came in and said, oh, I want to help. And we're like, okay, great. Like, you can make some phone calls. You can, show up here and do that. And she was like, okay. She came back the next day and said, what else can I do? We're like, oh, great. You can go knock on some doors and talk to some voters. And she came back every day for a couple weeks and just kept asking to do more and more. And it turns out she was, a single mom. I think she had 3 kids. She was working at a fast food restaurant to pay her bills, barely surviving. And she was taking all her free time to come and do this and to participate in this election. And it turned out she ended up being, going and kind of helping run this voting site. And in the US, we have these kind of strange primary caucus election things that I'm sure some of you know about, where sometimes you go and just vote, and sometimes you go and sit in a room like this and literally move around which way you're going. And if you're voting for Hillary Clinton, you go over there, and Bernie Sanders, you stand over there. And this woman ended up in this tiny Baptist church, I remember, was up this little dirt road outside of town. And she called me from their caucus site and said, they're trying to steal the election. And I was like, what are you talking about, they're trying to steal the election? She's like, no, they're changing the rules. They're saying we don't have more. There's 40 of us and 4 of them, but they're cheating. And so we're doing a sit-in. And it was this crazy thing. I was like, oh, okay, I'll get on the car. And I drove up there. And I walked in this tiny southern church in the middle of the woods, and there were literally, 45 African Americans sitting on the ground with their arms linked, just refusing to let the caucus go forward. And there's these 4 older white people sitting over there being like, no, we're doing it this way. And I remember I walked up to her and she said, the rules here say that if we have more, we can keep going. And they say they're going to call the police. They're saying we're going to do all this stuff. But if these are right? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, okay. And she stood up and she said, no, we're doing this. And from that moment, seeing the power of that little bit of information so changed how they saw their role. I was like, oh, I'm going to do this forever. I'm going to be a political organizer. This is amazing. So I tell that story to start off a little bit by talking about what Riot does. So we're an immersive media company. We make documentary films. We run a news website. And then we've branched out and are doing a lot of virtual reality and 360 video. And we do it not because we think the content matters to us, and we're very interested in the content in and of itself, but we're also doing it to actually activate change. And we are started by humanitarians, political organizers. We're not really journalists in the traditional sense. We're folks who decided that there has to be a new language and a new way to tell stories that activates people to change, that makes them actually feel empowered as opposed to disempowered. And I think you can spend a lot of time reading the news. I mean, I'm a news junkie, I love it, but not really knowing what you can do to help change the world or participate in it. And we were really inspired by this MLK quote, which is, "A riot is the language of the unheard." This notion that when there's no other way to actually get your voice out there, you have to start a riot. And so that's what we've done. So what Riot does is we're trying to change both kind of how you change stories, how news is told, what's considered important, and then we've spent a lot of time in the past couple of years working on who's actually getting to tell the stories. And so for us, that means making sure we're getting cameras in the hands of people all over the world who aren't traditionally ones who are telling stories. And so we talk about it as like fewer people like me making films and more people like these Alaskan natives who we gave an iPhone to and said, hey, make a film. We've made 5, 6 films all based on iPhones. We have 30, 40 filmmakers around the world who we've just equipped with these little tiny iPhones who are out there shooting their experiences, what they're doing. And I think what's important to us is again, it's who gets to tell these stories, and that the change is both who's making them, who's telling them, what those stories are, and making sure that they're always humanized, right? There's all these stories out there, and it's so easy to get stuck on the stories that are kind of these big numbers of things and these big world issues. And we always focus on the human level. It's like, as a human, person to person, what story can you tell that does that? We had a film last year that was nominated for an Academy Award about this wonderful woman named Garmai, who was on the body teams for the Ebola outbreak. And for us, it was, again, can you tell a story that's just about her and her experience? And what does that look like? And I think the other thing is like learning to listen as well. So it's an education in how we're choosing to say what stories matter and how they matter, and learning to listen to different stories, because the conventions of how we're telling stories, and this is certainly for 360 and VR, like we're used to certain stories that are packaged a certain way, that look a certain way, and I think the more we've worked with filmmakers and journalists around the world, it's actually learning to bend ourselves and be like more comfortable saying, oh, their way of telling a story is just as important, even if it looks different. And so with that, we get into what we're very excited about, which is like the democratization of all of this. The idea that a cell phone, I mean, this kid sitting here with a cell phone has the power to publish, has the power to take images, to make films, to talk to the whole world. And a few years ago, they didn't have that. And so suddenly that cell phone is as powerful as a news van was a decade ago or 5 years ago. And you can sit there and you can be in the middle of anywhere in the world and go onto Facebook Live and suddenly talk to people. And that's really exciting. And the technology to do that is very exciting. And the technology to do that with 360 and virtual reality, also very exciting. We, for a long time, wanted to shoot in VR, and weren't able to because the cameras were incredibly bulky and you'd have a camera operator, and we're kind of incredibly cheap and send out these tiny crews of 1 or 2 people. And last year, finally, they started making these GoPros that were in 3D printed cases. And we took one to Nepal the day after the earthquake and made one of our first pieces there. And again, with that, it's the democratization of who's going to be able to tell these stories and how do you get out there and do that. And so what we get excited about this is anyone can do it. That barrier to entry is removed. And that. So this brings us to the 360 and how we're doing that. We branched into 360, I said, partially because, again, these tools and the technology is exciting. I get excited by it, it's fun, and we geek out on it. It's not nearly as cool as how we're choosing to use these tools. And I think for us, the big thing and what we focus on going forward is it's great these things exist, but we actually have a responsibility of how we're using them and how we choose to use them. And all of these tools aren't necessarily inherently good. These new cameras and the new iPhone is like, it's neat in and of itself. But are we saying and are we demanding that the stories we're telling, the media we're creating, the content that we're making actually has a right to say we need it to be more important? And by that, it's not window dressing. I think a lot of times people say, like, oh, you guys are in the good space. You make stuff that's like, feel good, or you making it for an NGO or working with an NGO. And I think it's more important to step back and say there's a real need that we're doing this, and it's not just kind of fluffy at the end. Actually, when you look at the world, you look at the biggest issues we have, whether it's the refugee crisis, whether it's climate change, the ability to connect people and tell those stories and have people kind of lower their guards is what I think is going to help save us and help move us forward as a planet. And without doing that, it's very easy to have the same old storylines and the same barriers pop up that make it really hard to engage with people and get to know them. It's very hard to kind of look at someone who you've seen for 20 minutes in a film or spend a day with in a virtual reality space, watching a young girl go to school and seeing what it takes to actually make it, walk 5 miles to school each day, to not kind of open your heart to them and feel compassionate to them. And so then they talk about that. It's a lot about empathy. This is a film we made about this wonderful woman, Wasfi, who's a climber in Nepal, also all on an iPhone. And it's the idea that we're able to tell stories on iPhones in ways that used to take $20,000, $40,000, $100,000 of equipment to do. This is a film we made in Aleppo. So we took a 360 camera and a very brave journalist, and he went to Aleppo last year and kind of filmed what it was like to really be in Syria, to see what it's like to be on those streets as the kind of country is destroyed around you. 360 in VR, I think, and there's a lot of excitement about it. We've focused hugely on just making a ton of it. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good. You try your best and make what you can. But the idea is, both it can get you there and shift your perspective. And I think for us, it's also very important that it is still an evolving story tool. Excuse me. And it gets you there, the best of it. It's also, and something we're pushing hugely on now, is it's not just about the headset experiences for us. The headset is an amazing experience. It's very interesting. I love it. But it's also what you can do on your phone. And I think a mobile-first approach to 360 video is incredibly important because all of you, I imagine, have cell phones in your pockets that are all now 360 enabled, and we can be out at a mass audience and distributed. And even 6 months ago, that wasn't true. But now with Facebook 360 and YouTube 360, it's there, and we all have the power to do that. And so getting people to these places, whether to disaster zones, to war zones, is now easier. And you can actually take people there, you can show them those stories, and it's critical that we start to do that more and more as this stuff pops up. This is my friend Mehar. He's a really good guy. And this is actually a few hours after I met him. I was in Serbia, Croatia last fall doing reporting on the refugee crisis. And Mehar, and that's his cousin, Mohammed, and that's Saleh, are all Syrian refugees who were walking across the border before they were settled in Vienna. And I handed him that iPhone, and I was like, hey, you can play with this. 5 months later, Mehar has made a whole documentary. He kept the iPhone. He recorded something like 300 hours of his life and their life as they settled in Vienna, from getting their residency cards to cooking an omelet to getting their hair cut. This kind of very intimate portrait of what it was like to settle down. He's 25, 26 years old. One of millions, but someone who was able, through just having a phone and access to that, to tell his own story. And I think speaks to, when we're talking about the power of democratization, it's getting these tools in the right hands and deciding what's important. So his film is almost done. It's coming out in a few weeks. It's very exciting. But it's simple as that. This is Nepal, and again, when we talk about getting people to a site, this is a 360 film that I was saying we made there. What's it like to be in a disaster zone? If we're thinking, and this is again where I get back to where I started with the notion of participation, our whole thing is we're kind of activists. I use that term lightly, but we want people to take action. I don't want someone just to say, oh, I read that article, that was really interesting. Or even just to say, oh, I experienced that, I have empathy for them. Empathy is a wonderful thing and a wonderful feeling, but it's not actually going to get us where we need to go. We need people to take certain kinds of action. And so with something like this and taking people to Nepal, the goal is both to have them have that reaction, to have that emotional connection, and then also to do something, whether that's taking out their wallet and making a donation, or sharing it so that other folks can see it, or choosing to do something in their hometown that involves being active. All of the content that we create is meant to take it further, that next step, as opposed to just view it. And that's not enough. This is a film that we made in Alaska with the Sierra Club that's about climate change. And the whole idea is can you see these glaciers? Can you experience what it's like to be standing as these glaciers recede? And then can you do something about it? Can you actually say, there's something I can do, and I have a clear ask, and I know what that looks like? And then as I wrap up, and I guess we'll take some questions, this is just a bunch of other stuff. I want to talk a bit about, as I wrap up, like the notion of content living everywhere. And our whole idea, and with part of what we're doing next, hopefully with Huffington Post, is this notion that because we're there and the way we think about ourselves, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know, it's like that we're making stuff that is trying to get people to do things. We want it to be everywhere. We want it to be ubiquitous. We want to be on every platform and be platform agnostic. And the more eyeballs, the better. We think of it kind of as like we're infiltrating. It's like if you can make it palatable enough and make it cool enough looking, then all of a sudden it can kind of be comfortable in people's living rooms and on the cell phones of people around the world. And so that is our goal going forward, of more action, more content that kind of makes you feel a certain way, made by more people and truly democratized in the sense that there shouldn't be so many gatekeepers saying this counts and this doesn't count, or this film is worthy of this because it's shot on this. Those rules kind of shouldn't apply anymore. And if some young kid in Haiti or Rwanda can have a $400 Rico Theta handheld 360, they're going to make a film that's just as good as what we can make right now and what someone else spending $1 million can make. And having a way to get that out to the world is actually the important next step. So with that, I think I'll take questions if there are any. It would be great.
Hello, thank you. My name is Michał Pniaczykova. I'm a documentary producer, and I have two questions actually. One is, how long are the films that you're making? And second, there have been like many dog labs where there's immersive showrooms, and my experiences that with documentary filmmaking, it's more about the stories than, and immersive filmmaking is rather about the immersion. So at the end of the day, it's about the story. Could you comment on that?
Yeah, I think I'll try to. I think in terms of the documentaries that we make, the linear docs, not the 360 virtual reality ones we make all sorts. We make full-length feature ones. Our sweet spot actually tends to be about 10 to 20 minutes. And we are very big with very short documentaries because we think that you can make them. You can make 20 of them in the time it takes you to make one feature. It's not saying that that's better. I think for us it just fits more with what we're excited about and works. I think in terms of the immersive stuff, I want to be clear, like the technology of 360 of VR is interesting, but like as soon as AR gets better, like we'll be telling stories with that. So to your point, it is about the ability to tell stories in new ways. That is the exciting thing to us more than the technology in and of itself. And I think that the fun part is it's not written yet. Who's there? I saw a film that some friends made recently in Burma and Myanmar that was in VR. That to me was the best documentary I've seen in 360 because of some things that they were doing. It's a wide open field. No one's like cracked it. It's fun to wake up every day and get to try to be part of a bigger group of people all over the world writing this language. But there's a lot of room to experiment, and the stories still have to matter. I think that you don't get that feeling just if they're just kind of poverty porn or disaster porn postcards. It's not eliciting the same response as if you're actually telling a story that's deeper, and that's the challenge in making any kind of content. The fact that you're making it something real, that's valuable, that's nutritious, that's not just candy. I think it goes both ways, whether you're making an action film or you're making a documentary.
Thank you. Very interesting what you're doing. One question, how do you find your audience? I understand you're not in the business of doing viral videos, so and the topics are quite heavy, so how do you find the audience? Is Riot such a strong label that everybody wants to see the new Riot documentary, or where do they come from?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we spent a few years building up our own audience. So we have a distributed model between our website, our Facebook. Everyone should go on Facebook and like us, where we publish a lot of things, YouTube, what have you. So we've really worked to build up that brand and that thing. In this next phase, what we're excited about with Huffington Post, as kind of partnering up with them, is that we're going to be able to use their audience and their broad reach as well as AOL's to get these stories out. I think it's also like we're trying to tell these stories in a way that it is heavy stuff, but making it palatable and digestible. So it's not viral, although we've done, to build our audience, we certainly made our fair share of like horrible viral content, which we're now happily not doing. But it's like everyone else, there's a fight, and how do you do it, and how it gets out there. I think we've been excited to see those platform shifts, and with 360, there's a lot of room out there just for content creators, and there isn't enough content yet that's happening in the 360 VR space at that kind of 360 video level. So there's an appetite for it, which is great. I hope.
I wonder what type of revenue streams do you have? Would you want to tell us something about that?
Huge revenue streams.
Does advertising play a role, or do you focus on selling the films to platforms? And if the latter, which platforms would that be? Does TV play a role?
Yeah, so what we have in terms of revenues, we have a creative brand studio. And so whether it's a nonprofit or an NGO that we work with, or a different brand, we make stuff for them, and that keeps the lights on sometimes. And yeah, so it's less advertising, and I think when we've seen, especially as it's gone to the distributed model with needing to publish on Snapchat and needing to publish here and there, it makes more sense to make that stuff and then use the money to tell stories like that we want to tell. Sure.
Hi. I was wondering to what percentage or to what degree the people who record the stuff out there, to which degree they are included in the final product of the movies. Because for now I'm understanding that somebody in Nepal records that and sends the material over to you guys, and your editor team basically makes a movie out of it. So
yeah.
How much are these people involved in the final product?
It depends. Some of the stuff that people are shooting it and editing it and sending it to us, and we package it just as it is in the kind of film. Some of it, like with Mehar, if you ask him, he has tons of notes every day about what gets in and what doesn't get in. And they also have the ability with a lot of these folks in a different way they choose when they turn the camera on. You can work with them and you can work to produce it, but there's a nice line there, and we spend a lot of time making sure that it's not just the content has a certain appeal to it, but how we make it matters as a kind of form of social practice, whether we're there on the ground or we're going into a place to do it. So much of making stuff like this can feel very extractive, and we work really hard to make sure that we're not operating like that. It completely depends on the project. I think that one of the things we're excited right now we're building up is really making sure, really looking around the world to build up a large network of 360 shooters to tell news and to tell it quickly. So if there are any 360 operators out there, come talk to me. And that's very exciting to us because that gets the ability to do it quick, early, and make it. But also, like any freelance network, we're gonna shape some of it. And like as I said, like we're biased. We have opinions. We're pushing an agenda, like very much. So we don't play by the we don't have those same standard rules of journalism. Like we've decided, and not that those are wrong. For us, we're trying to accomplish something, and we're very clear with that. That's what we're trying to do.
Hello, my name's Norbert. I'm very much into new media and new forms of journalism. But and I'm honest. I've never heard about Riot before, but I know I've read a lot of times Huffington Post. I read and don't do it anymore because I'm curious about. But I've got a very name it old-fashioned view of being a journalist. And could you comment on how you see yourself in the role of someone who is responsible, who's not only telling stories, but who's responsible on how your stories or the stories you publish, the film, have an impact on the society. I hope this it's clear
Yeah.
what my question is.
I will try to answer that. I mean, I think making anything or existing in the world, you have a responsibility of kind of how your actions and who you are ripples throughout the world. So part of that is, at the end of the day, a personal set of values that you govern your actions by. Whether you're baking cakes or you're a school teacher or a cab driver, there's some responsibility. I think in media there's certainly more if you're trying to push things out. But yeah, I mean, I think that's where I say, like, we're upfront about what we're trying to accomplish. You know, if we're going out and making a film about Ebola and trying to raise money for an orphanage, like, we're telling you what we're doing. It's pretty clear and pretty straightforward. So the responsibility, I think, you know, it's both in the micro decisions that you make in terms of making content, what it looks like. I don't think that in old school journalism there's necessarily, and I don't mean this as a knock, it's always hard, it always ends up in these things where you're like beating up journalists, and like that's never the goal. Like they make a lot of decisions they never record, right? If you're going to a story, there's all the decisions they make getting up to the moment where they're interviewing somebody. I think with documentary film, which is mostly the kind of approach that we use versus traditional kind of news journalism, there's, you know, there's more latitude to play with there, but we're not any more, yeah, I don't think we have more responsibility than they do. I don't know if that answered it. I don't think that answered your question at all, but I think whatever you're doing, it matters how you do it. So you should be nice to people.
So Gabriel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.